As a trauma survivor, one of the things that I learned on my own road to recovery was just how uncomfortable it was to be in my own body. It's almost like we live life from here up, right? We're in our head all the time, ruminating, thinking, remembering, having all these stories. But when we stop those and we allow ourselves to just notice what's going on in the body, it can be a very uncomfortable place. And the reason for that, the reason the body is so uncomfortable is because when you've undergone traumatic events, whether you were with parents that had a personality disorder like NPD or BPD, or you had childhood neglect, or parents that had addictions, or you suffered from bullying or any traumatic experience that caused trauma. In childhood, we can't process trauma. And by the way, trauma is not so much what happened to you as much, and I want to stress those two words, as much as it is what those events caused you to believe about yourself. So because of trauma, we get these painful beliefs about self. And in childhood, we can't process them. And those beliefs are accompanied with painful emotional states. If I feel like I am bad and I am unworthy, I'm going to feel an intense amount of shame and pain and sadness and rejection and abandonment. Those emotions, when they come up in the body, the brain notices and is like, oh, that's too much for Michele. She can't handle that. Let's compartmentalize it. So it gets stored in an area of the brain where it seems like it's out of sight, but it is never out of body. So for example, let's say I have this thought that I am bad, that I am unlovable, and it's accompanied with those intense sensations, right? But I don't remember that. Now I'm an adult. Those years are gone, right? I don't remember that. But now I'm out with some people. I'm out with some friends, and somebody says something similar. It could even be an expression on somebody's face that is similar to the expression on the face of the person that caused me to believe these things about myself. And my nervous system sees that. I'm not consciously thinking about what happened in childhood, but my nervous system, because what's there, what's been stifled is still there, it's always noticing any similarities with what's there and what's stifled. So it notices this expression on somebody's face, and all of a sudden I am flooded with shame. I don't know why. I'm like, what's going on in my body? Why is this happening? That's what happens, right? The trauma was out of mind, but it was not out of body. Now, when we tend to feel those emotions, we tend to go into a trauma response of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So if I go into fight, I might start a fight with that person. If I go to flee, I might just leave and never want to hang out with them again. Cut them off like gangrene. If I go into freeze, I might just really dissociate, be detached. If I go into fawning, I might just go along with whatever they're saying, hide my perspective, hide my authenticity, and just follow like a shadow everyone else. Okay. When we go into those trauma responses, that's a coping skill that doesn't allow us to reframe what came up in the body. The problem is when it comes up in the body, it is so intense. We feel it. We feel it from the place that we felt it when we were 3, 5. That same intensity, that life or death intensity that those emotions felt like when we were young, that's how it comes up in the body because there's no time for trauma stored in the brain. So the shame at 3 that feels life or death comes up as life or death in the shame as an adult. So what we tend to do is, again, we go into a trauma response that causes us to not feel or notice the emotion in the body, right? We'll people please, we'll start vegging on TV. We might grab something to drink to not feel this. You do something so you don't feel. The problem with doing instead of feeling is that it keeps the trauma compartmentalized and ready to come up at any similarity in your life. And it never allows you to process and release it so that you don't have to avoid things that bring it up because it's not going to come up anymore. It's been processed. Okay, so that being said, the body is not a comfortable place to be. if you have trauma. You're probably used to stifling your feelings, ignoring your feelings, looking outside of you when something comes up, and sitting with your feelings probably sounds like a daunting task. Like, how dare you ask me? I don't want to sit with that. I don't want to feel that. That is too intense. And I get it, because that's how I felt in the beginning. And so one of the exercises that helped me to learn to be comfortable with all the different sensations that come up in the body was pendulation.